Hello and welcome to First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and it's really hard to time that when there's a lag between when the stream happens and what's on our end. But it happens. With me, as always, is my best man, Chris Nicolay. Chris, how are you doing today?
Hello, it's hot.
Yeah, you've been saying that like it's hotter in Montana than it has been in Texas, which is kind of crazy.
It honestly has been. I've been checking. Like occasionally I'm like, I wonder how hot it is in Dallas. I'm like, it's cooler there?
Yeah.
What is this?
I remember when I was in Connecticut, that happened a couple times where like it was like for whatever reason, it was like high 90s in Connecticut and like high 80s in Texas. And I was just like, what is going on?
Yep.
But this isn't Weathercast. This is First Geek 411, episode 136. With me, I'm just kidding. And so this week, we're really excited. We had a little bit of last minute change up. So we changed our top three. We're going to now be talking our top three non-MCU superhero movies. But before we get into that, we'll be talking about the things that we've been up to. Got a whole host of PlayStation 5 news. We got some Netflix news coming too that is a thing. We got Emmy nominations. We got Google. And then we got some D&D. So, quite a packed show. And listeners, as always, you can find us on our social media. We are One Geek 411, pretty much everywhere on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our PlayStation community. You can come join our Discord. A link will be in the show notes. And then you can shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can be like the awesome people in chat watching live on Twitch at twitch.tv/1geek411, or check out the videos over on YouTube. And then, of course, if you enjoy that podcasty goodness, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and check out our show notes at onegeek411.com. With all that said, let's chat about the things that we have been up to this past week. Chris, what are your favorite things?
So I spent a lot of time in the car this week. So Friday after I got off work, I drove 4.5 hours to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, from where I live, to visit my good friend Nick Smith. And then the following day, we decided we drove an hour and a half back toward Montana. From there to bike down the Hiawatha Trail, which isn't like old train rack trail. It's about
Cool.
13 miles. And it's really packed. It's a really busy road, but you bike down and you can take a shuttle back up, so you don't have to re-bike it. So I did that, and then I also started Umbrella Academy Season 2. The Umbrella Academy Season 2. Haven't finished it, but enjoying it so far. Not sure if I like this more in Season 1. I think I might, because it kind of focuses on each individual character a little more. But yeah, we'll see what my thoughts are once I'm done with it.
Nice. Over on my end, we marathoned all of Umbrella Academy Season 2. So we knocked it out Friday night and Saturday. And so really enjoyed it. To what Chris just said, I really enjoyed the character interactions, and a lot of the characters that kind of bothered me towards the beginning of the season kind of grew on me more as the season went. And so I thought that was really well done. There's some really cool stuff. I'm really excited for where Season 3 is going to go. Yeah, we'll talk more about it later. I think Shanine is watching it as well. And then I don't remember if Emma said I know Emma said she hasn't seen all of Season 1, but we might be able to talk about it a bit more once we're all on for the next show. And then, Chris, you'll be proud of me. I started Your Lie in April.
So proud. So proud.
Yep. And so
Is Deanna watching with you?
No, I was watching it during the day.
Oh. Man, because I'd like to get her reaction to it too. So you just might have to watch through it twice.
Double Your Lie in April. Yes, I'm only one episode in, so like I don't really have like that big of an opinion on it at the moment. But I enjoyed that one episode, and so
it's Your Lie in April is just one that's just it's so well animated for one thing, and I think the writing is just phenomenal. So I'm looking forward. Is it dubbed?
yes.
I wonder how that is.
See, Chris, if you only do dubbed, you just never know the difference.
I mean, I mostly just compare it because of voice acting. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not. I might have to check it out because sometimes because part of it is ultimately voice acting is such an important part, especially for this because it's a drama piece. And but you'll just have to keep watching.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I enjoyed the first episode, and I'll try to watch some more. Um, and then for my itch.io game of this week, because like I haven't done one the past 2 weeks, so I figured I probably should actually do that.
We've been doing other stuff like
Yeah.
setting up a stream.
Yeah, So I started playing 2064 Read Only Memories, which is a like interactive novel set in 2064. It's a cyberpunk style game, so it deals with the ideas of artificial intelligence, body modification, that type of stuff. But it is like, it's like an interactive novel, so you're not like, it's not actiony, at least not so far. I think I'm in chapter 1, so I still have quite a bit to go. It kind of struggles in that way that a lot of novel like this type of things do, where it seems like a really slow start. Like it's an interesting world, but like it's just slow getting going. But I'm enjoying it so far. Like I said, I'm hoping to play some more. I might not finish it, but I am hoping to at least get one more session.
Feasible sci-fi? Do you see us being there in 44 years?
No. I would definitely say no. Because like they're on like full on people with like cat ears and stuff like that. And so,
I mean, I could potentially see that in 40 years. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not like it being like a popular thing, but I can definitely see like having it be something that a small section of the population doing in 40 years. I mean, we already see people like cutting their tongues and stuff, so.
Right. But yeah. So it's, yeah. Yeah. I was going like, yeah, you convinced me, Chris.
Yes.
But
that's right, I'm right.
But yeah, like I said, it's interesting. I'm curious if it will mess with the tropes, because it's already kind of getting into the like AI, is it living, like that kind of trope. And so we'll see. Cyberpunk as a setting is not necessarily one of my favorites, and so, but we'll see. And then I had a super busy past week when it comes to podcasting. I was on a total of 4 different podcasts, including ours. And so Sunday we were on Comics in the Cross. Monday we streamed. Wednesday I was on the Nerd of Godcast, and then Thursday I was on City on a Hill. And so that was a lot, and it was awesome. On City on a Hill, we designed a new D&D subclass started designing a new D&D subclass for the Ranger. Basically they use bees and traps. So it's like bee bombs, basically.
Nice.
And then we started another class that I think we landed on calling the Tactician, which is the idea is that instead of them being like a frontline fighter, they like motivate the rest of their team to do things. So like you could give your action so somebody else on your team can get another attack, that kind of thing. So that was really interesting. And then Nerd of Godcast had a bunch of Christian geeky streamers on, or geeky podcasters, and we all just kind of sat and chatted for like 2 hours. And that should be going up tomorrow, as of the day that we're recording. So I should have a link for that in the show notes. We'll have it out on social media. But shout out to Tony T for putting all that together. And so it was a really good group. Like I said, it might not have been 2 hours, but it felt like a great 2 hours. Like one of those things where you're just like, that was awesome. like when you leave like a really good movie and you're like, man, that was 2 hours, like that kind of thing. And so really excited for that to go out. I'm really excited to listen back to it. It's really different podcasting with people you don't know. Like, in that we're like,
what?
Yeah. Like I had Ryan from City on the Hill was the only one, because he was also on that. He was the only one I'd ever podcasted with before on that cast. And so it was really interesting to kind of have that different dynamic. But that is a lot, and it's been really good. Apparently the video is fuzzy. I don't know if that's
I don't know what to do there.
Okay.
Like who's fuzzy? Is it both of us fuzzy or?
Yeah.
I hope the backdrop's not fuzzy, but
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it looks fine to me. I don't know. I don't understand how the internet works. So, with that said, let's jump into our news segments for this week, starting as always with video games. And Chris, we got some PlayStation news.
yeah. So I mean, like, so for one thing, we do have a no PS5 state of play this week from Sony, from PlayStation. Looking forward to that to see what exactly.
Mhm.
I guess this is probably like one of the just kind of ramping up to the actual PS5 and like the end game, like end of season for PS4, kind of what's coming here toward in preparation. But also we got news that ultimately you'll be able to use your PS4 controllers on your PS5. They are compatible, but they are only compatible with PS4 games.
Yeah, this was a really weird take from Sony. It's not surprising in the sense that like controllers have typically never been forwards compatible completely,
Right.
but like this is really weird and like I don't really know how to feel about it.
I mean, I think this is just one of those things because the vast portion of your library that that you'll be playing when you upgrade to the PS5 if you upgrade right away is going to be mostly PS4 games
Right.
that you are just going back to finish. And just like having the option to maintain that control, that feel, I think is kind of cool. Definitely an interesting piece. I'm not entirely sure exactly what that's going to look like, and especially if like is the PS5 controller still going to be compatible with PS4 games? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, that's my assumption as well. Where like PS4 controller, the DualShock 4 is not compatible with PS5, but DualSense is compatible with PS4. That'd be my guess.
Right.
Or compatible with PS4 games, just
Right.
to be clear. Not compatible with the PS4.
That'd be weird.
That would be really weird. Kind of cool again, but really weird.
But yeah, that's
Then,
it's pretty much how I see it. I wonder like if they'll do that with any other accessories. I think the big thing is like if you're doing any multiplayer games and you upgrade, you still have the option, like you don't have to buy a full new set of controllers if you're playing some of the multiplayer PS4 games. I think that's the biggest important piece in terms of that compatibility swap there. So
yeah, that's a really good point because like that's great for people that like something like Overwatch, Fortnite, like those types of Apex, like people that's the game that they play. They can upgrade. You can still use your same controller. Hopefully, DualSense will have decent battery life compared to the DualShock 4. And then like you can have your backup controllers to play those games. But like yeah, we'll see. I'm interested. Like, and this kind of makes me very curious about what is going on. But the other PS5 news that we got this week, or PlayStation 4 news, I guess technically, is that for Marvel's Avengers, Spider-Man will be an exclusive character to the PlayStation SKUs. So you can guess how the internet feels about this. I'm like super torn on it. Like, yeah, this is like somebody Isaac in chat says mind blowing. Like like I cannot believe that they got Spider-Man as an exclusive character for this, in the sense that like Spider-Man's probably
is it that? I mean, Sony owns Spider-Man, so
well, but like so not in that regard. Like that part I can completely get, but like in the sense that like a third-party studio, because this isn't a Sony studio. This isn't even like a second-party studio like Insomniac was before they got bought.
Right. This is Square.
This is a completely independent third party that dedicated and that, of course Sony probably paid them to do all this.
Right. So I mean, like ultimately, because they are a third-party studio and Sony Studios owns rights to Spider-Man. Yeah. That, I mean, in terms of like they had to establish that type of partnership just to create the game.
Yeah.
So now saying, hey, by the way, we want our character, especially because so not only do they have the partner obviously with Disney, just for Avengers in general, now they also had to get additional rights to use Spider-Man, and Sony was probably like, yeah, sure, but he's going to be exclusive to our console version. I mean, those types of deals, like it's not super surprising, especially since it is specifically Spider-Man. It just makes sense.
An interesting point is made that, like, again by Isaac in chat, that Sony does not own Spider-Man from an IP for games, only for film rights, which makes this even more interesting. And so,
true, but
like, because Spider-Man's in Ultimate Alliance 3, which is a Switch exclusive. So, like, again, like, I just think this is so crazy. And then, like, getting outside, like, I when I was talking about this in Discord with people, I was like, I just have questions, like, and not like outside of that whole exclusivity thing. So, like, what does this mean for the DLC characters in terms of their story? Is all of their individual narratives going to be during, like, after, is it A-Day? Is that the day that the Avengers are defeated in the lore, that, like, is that first demo? So it's like all of their characters, like all their stories going to be during that time. Cause, like, are they going to tie in? So, like, will Spider-Man be in the Xbox version in the story, but not playable?
probably.
Like I just think that that's super interesting, that, like, again, and, like, I'm sure all of this will be, like, explained as we actually get closer to the game coming out. But, like, we just got the reveal also that Hawkeye is going to be one of the DLC characters. So, like, even with that, like, is Hawkeye going to be in the main story but then just not playable right away? Like, I'm just so curious to all of that, and I want to know now, but they won't tell me, Chris.
It's because we're not big enough yet.
Touche. You win this round.
We're getting there. We'll get there. No. I mean, another thing is in general, Square has always had a better relationship with Sony.
Yeah. And we even saw that with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, it's a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and then I think after a year it's coming to Xbox One / next gen consoles. I don't know for sure if that's confirmed, but, like, that'd be my guess. Like, it seems weird to port it to Xbox One and then not have a up-resed thing for Xbox Series X.
Right.
But yeah, so, like, and it's definitely, again, it's definitely interesting. Like, that's kind of how I would summarize all of this. Yeah, I don't know.
Tell us what you think, guys. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, granted, obviously it doesn't affect most of the people on our podcast since we're PlayStation players for the most part anyway. But,
Yeah.
I mean, these types of decisions, especially on cross-platform games, are always interesting.
And I know one of the takes that I've seen too is, like, does this mean Xbox will get an exclusive character?
Like Soul Calibur used to do?
Yeah, like, that's literally what I was thinking of. Is, like, the 1 year, I don't remember if this was actually 1 year because I didn't play Soul Calibur, but it was like,
I think
what was it, like,
4.
PlayStation had Darth Vader, Xbox had Yoda, and then Nintendo had Link. And again, like, I don't remember if that was all actually 1 year, but it was like that type of thing.
Right, and essentially they're all the same character, just different sprites. And that's, like, the idea behind the three, like, what they did. But yeah, they did weird things like that, like for that generation of Soul Calibur games. And it's like multiple generations. They did a few times for the Soul Calibur games. I forget what exact numbers, but was definitely interesting. Oh man, Soul Calibur.
So what if Xbox gets Miles Morales as an exclusive character?
I'd be a little.
It's legitimately just like the palette swap type of thing. They don't even give him, like, the Venom bite or Venom whatever that is.
I'd be a little disappointed because I'd rather have Miles.
I mean, you're not wrong, especially with the game coming out. Hype.
Yep.
But yeah, and, like, I know, like, that's been one of the, like, the prevailing theories is that we would eventually see a Xbox exclusive Marvel game. Like, I know I was in the camp that I was kind of expecting something like that for the Xbox event 2 weeks ago, I guess, but then that didn't happen. So, because that would have been a great time to tie in with this, but I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see. And so, I mean, I think this means I think we're supposed to get 5 DLC characters. I don't know if it's confirmed or if I'm just making that number up, but I'm curious if, like, so is it going to be 5? Say it is 5. Is it going to be 5 and Spider-Man for PlayStation gamers, or is it going to be 4 and then Spider-Man? I don't know. Again, I just have questions, and I would like them to be answered by someone
Just
at Square.
everyone spam Square.
Yes.
Square's Twitter account, and let's get these answers. Let's figure this out right now.
Yeah. Again, I just want to know. But that's our video game chat for this week, which brings us into movies, TV, anime, and entertainment. Chris, I hear that we got some Netflix news.
Yeah, and this is a perfect transition piece because it is a video game IP ultimately. But so the director of Detective Pikachu, Will Helm, a Beyond Good and Evil movie for Netflix. Director Rob Letterman is currently in talks to be the director for, obviously, so we know Beyond Good and Evil 2 is currently in development, and it's been pretty long awaited because it came, that was 2017 E3?
Something like that. It was, I was hoping that this article would say, but I don't see it. Yeah, it's definitely been at least 3 years. Let me see if I can find it.
Something like that, yeah. So, it's obviously this is brand new news, or for the most part brand new news, and we're not sure if the movie is going to follow the same storyline as the game or be in that kind of same time frame. It could just be a general adaptation of the game's plot or different supplemental story in general. But I don't know. I'm excited. Like, I like this kind of marketing though. In general, like, it's like I know you guys have been waiting, but here's something else to look forward to regarding our IP that you can possibly just check up. It can also, maybe it's something that maybe they're going to summarize the original game into a movie.
That would definitely make sense.
So as a summary to get you caught up into going into part 2, since the original game came out in 2003.
Yeah.
But
and it was 2017. Your guess was correct.
Oh man, I have a memory for E3. Not really. I always forget what year things takes place in. It just seemed like it was 3 years ago.
That just felt right.
It just felt right.
It also could have been like last month, but like, you know.
So like, this isn't the only video game IP that has recently been announced to get a movie adaptation. The John Wick creator Derek Kolstad is writing a Splinter Cell series for Netflix. We obviously have a Dragon's Dogma anime coming next month.
That seems a lot farther away than that. Maybe it's because I'm not like keeping up with the Dragon's Dogma, but like I remember that being announced, and I'm like, oh, we got plenty of time.
Right, and that's next month. It's September.
Right.
It's already August, guys. Wow.
Dude, that's crazy.
Early, and then obviously we've had The Witcher, and that everyone's hyped about anything relating to that. So not only do you have The Witcher, we also have The Witcher like new series that we talked about last week, like the prequel series, miniseries or whatever it is a movie. I don't know, and so I don't know. It's a good time to be a geek. Not gonna lie, if you love amazing stories in video games and you've played these games, I mean, just getting serious movie adaptations into even just straight to streaming service, because that's kind of where the money is, and also explains Netflix success is that they adopt these ones. They know their market. They really do.
Right.
It's just crazy.
And this is the biggest thing Netflix can do to keep itself relevant is if this movie is half as good as the Witcher series, that's awesome. Like, if Netflix can keep being the place for these, because like, especially now that Disney Plus is there, like Netflix has basically lost superhero movies, or like obviously like the MCU movies. Like, they can still have them, of course, but that's probably gonna be at least more expensive.
Cost too much for it's not fiscally responsible. Granted, like I think having those initially just brought a lot of people to the platform, and then doing things like so much like this where they are just gobbling up like project after project of everything has just been crazy.
Yeah. So I'm really interested. I'd never played Beyond Good and Evil. Like,
Neither did I, but I
but
want to now. And
yeah, I've heard so many good things about it. Like, it's one of those that I don't know if it's maybe it's I feel the same way about like Fantasy Star as other people like Beyond Good and Evil fans feel about that.
well, Beyond Good and Evil is like the reason why it is a cult classic is it's one thing that probably didn't do well on long initial release, but then as people like played older games such as it, like became to love it. Granted, the only way to really play it is to go back and find an original copy. And what was that? That's PS2 era, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. Like early PS2.
Yeah, something like that. Because I thought it was an exclusive, but I could be wrong. Oh no, definitely not. Published on PlayStation 2, Windows, Xbox, and GameCube.
So I mean, you could probably get it on Steam then if it was on.
Yeah.
But either way, like this new adaptation, and I don't know, probably just to bring a larger video game audience in. This is a good movie. This is a good move on the Ubisoft's behalf in terms of making sure Beyond Good and Evil remains relevant while they finish the game, or just everything like that. These are my favorite marketing moves.
Yeah,
just straight up.
Completely agree. As maybe a bit of a shorter topic, I guess like 2 months ago, Avatar: The Last Airbender got added to Netflix, and then this week, as of recording, The Legend of Korra will be added to Netflix. So that's great. Again, more fans in the fandom is amazing. Cannot wait. I'm excited for people to watch Korra.
This is also exciting just because it's the full series. Like, granted, you can watch some of Korra on Amazon Prime if you have a Prime account. But I think it's only, like, it's always the final season you cannot watch on Prime.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think it's the first 3.
You got to see her. Here, buy this final season so you can finish up. It's like, oh, fine. That's how they get you. That's how Amazon's smart like that.
That's, yeah. But that's really cool. Again, love Korra. It's a great example of how like a studio kind of did the writers dirty. But really cool villains. I love the world building. Korra's great. They did Bolin dirty.
Yeah. They really did Bolin dirty.
Yeah.
Most disappointing aspect of that show. Of the series.
Yeah, now I'm kind of sad. So let's get into more exciting news. The Mandalorian has received 15 Emmy nominations, including Best Drama. So that's hype.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, granted, it's not surprising. Like, especially like just the depth of the process, like just in terms of we're telling 8 very unique stories following this main character, and it's just I love it. It's just crazy. It's and each story is so unique. So I mean, it really deserves it. They really touched on all the pieces that they are nominating them for. So beautiful piece of work.
And then some other nominations I want to shout out is The Good Place is on for Outstanding Comedy Series. So people need to go watch The Good Place. It's so good. And then Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is also on there for comedy. So again, I love both of those shows, and they're both great watches.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is phenomenal. That was a very unique find, and for a period piece that it just caught me off guard. Like I was like not expecting it to like it as much as I did.
I definitely think it's one of those shows that's better than it has any right to be. Like that kind of thing. It's a comedy set in like New York in this time period. It's like, oh, okay. But then like it's so good. Like it's played so well. The cast does such a great job. The jokes are so good. Like
jokes are good, and it's like it balances out like the actual like more serious themes with its comedy, but not distracting from the purpose of them. And that's a hard,
Right.
anytime you're in general writing comedy, it's hard not to just poke fun at situations while actually keeping the issues that you're trying to portray relevant.
Yeah, completely agree. All the normal comedy shows, like late night shows, also get nominations. So you have like, it's kind of been the same batch of those for a while that always get the Emmy nominations. And so, but that's a thing that's there. Yeah. Other than that, like, just kind of like Watchmen's getting a bunch of shout outs too. I still need to go watch that. Like, that's on my list. Yeah.
One thing I'm interested to see is ultimately how the Emmys are going to take place. I mean, that's something wholly new, going to be unique to this year. Are these award events, is to just see what exactly they are going to do, especially in this time of COVID. Or is it just going to be kind of? Are they going to Zoom it?
Are they going to Zoom it, man?
Just a giant Zoom meeting of all these stars just waiting for their awards.
That'd be really funny, like, to be honest.
I mean, it's one way to really control those speech times.
Yeah, you just cut out.
Just cut them out. Away. Just move it on. Go. Next person.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. But listeners, if there's any of the Emmy nominations that you think are really cool, you can let us know at our social medias or in Twitch chat. And we'll chat about them a bit more after the show proper. And so with that, it's time for our favorite named segment.
Dongle News.
Chris, what do you got for us this week?
So actually quite a bit is happening. Google's doing quite a bit. Finally, actually, Google has finally officially announced their Pixel 4a. And because of the timing of their announcement, they also just came out and announced a 5G version of the 4a as well as the Pixel 5. Obviously, the Pixel 4a has been out in reviewers' hands for some time, although they have not been able to publish their articles, obviously, due to no release date, no nothing. But we officially have that. So the Pixel 4a is slated to officially ship on August 20th, so later this month. So if you need a good mid-range budget phone, it's just like very basic Android, this is your phone. Starting at, and it comes at a price of $349. Really reasonable for a phone. Granted, it's not flagship. It's not going to have your 90 hertz screens. Right. It's not going to have the top of line processor or anything like that. But it does have a flagship camera. So if that is what you are looking for, this is going to be a great phone. Because it is the same camera essentially that is in the 4. They just dial back on the cost in other areas, such as like you're not going to have the radar chip for your gesture control and everything. But then also they did announce that the 4a 5G will release alongside the Pixel 5 later this fall, starting at $499 for a 5G version of the same phone. And then so obviously we got kind of the Pixel 5. It's not something we got a ton of information on, but obviously it's gonna be here. Also, we should note the 4a comes with 128 gigabytes of storage, which is finally like that should be the new baseline for new phones. Just because if you are recording 4K, if you are taking a ton of pictures, that takes up your memory, and apps aren't getting really any smaller. They have to do more and do more for you.
I mean, like, we're in the age where like a simple picture is more like data than all of Super Mario, like the original Mario game.
True.
Like,
yep.
Things are just getting crazy. Like,
but it's a very aggressive price point. We should say that's $100 less than the iPhone SE. Pretty much the iPhone equivalent. And yeah, so if I'm excited mostly about this finally because I'm sporting a Pixel 2 and it needs an upgrade.
I mean, you've been waiting for this announcement for quite a while.
I have because
that's
I knew I didn't want the 4 because too many gimmicky features that I just wasn't interested in. I like the fingerprint sensor or reader for your security. I don't like facial unlock in general. But yeah, so I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for a phone to kind of excite me that comes in at a good price point because phones are getting expensive. Like general flagship is starting $800-900, and that's before you even get into the major brand flagships. And it's just getting crazy and gimmicks.
Yeah, and it's an expensive year for us as gamers, like like with console launch coming.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted something budget that's gonna, not die at 60 or reboot at 60% because my battery's old. We should also say it does sport a pretty decent battery size for its form factor, 3,140 milliamp hour battery, and we should say that's larger than the Pixel 4's battery. So granted, so you have less power consumption because you're using a mid-range processor instead of a high-end processor. So this should have a really good battery life. Other news that come out of Google. I just like this news. This is cool because in terms of accessibility to technology or use of technology, this is really cool. So Google's live captioning feature, it's the technology they pretty much use for live captioning video streams, YouTube, anything like that, will soon work with Google Voice and video calls on Pixel phones. So for hearing impaired individuals, this is going to be a wonderful feature. Now you're going to have captioning for your live video calls. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is real. I'm really cool. I really like this idea. Or now you can mute the person and act like just read the subtitles, so you don't have to when you're talking to people. But this is one reason why I am such a big fan of Google, even as large as they are and the data they have on me. Is because they do advance technology to a place of accessibility and usage that really pushes the development of technology into cool utilizations, such as just live captioning. They take big risks on advancing and growing technology, even if their third-party vendors that use their technology end up doing better than they do in terms of hardware sales. In other tech news, there's talk about Microsoft purchasing TikTok since the threat of a TikTok ban is still looming. Again, reiterated this past week. Yeah.
We've talked about that before, but I don't know. It just definitely seems like one of those things that is this really what we need to be worried about?
No. I mean,
not us as a podcast,
right.
But us as in America. Is TikTok really the problem right now? No.
Well, ultimately, the problem is that they believe China's the problem, and TikTok is a Chinese-owned app. So yeah, Microsoft is currently on talks. Granted, they did announce that they are on pause with those talks in acquiring TikTok. Granted, this isn't the first time we've kind of seen this wouldn't be the first time that a Chinese-owned application gets sold to an American company to prevent it banning or restrictions on said platform. It's happened before, and then app was purchased, and you probably never heard about it because, well, it's just a just one of those things. But yeah, so maybe Microsoft can keep TikTok from being banned, or maybe in general this isn't something we have to actually worry about. We don't know what the actual powers there are or what authority there is to potentially ban an entire app. Granted, there's already talks about how to get around that, which is potentially to change your region and just use it as in China or in Canada, because I don't think they're even talking about banning it. So
Right. Yeah, again we've hit on this, but it's like it just seems so crazy to me that this is where we're at. Like, yeah, that's kind of just all I have to say. Like to add to that, like,
right.
and it is so easy now to what you just said to change your location, whether that's through VPNs or whatever. Like
A lot of times
it's
apps
not.
give you the ability to just do it
Yeah,
in general, since it doesn't truly, like, especially like for apps that aren't trying to really determine it. Granted, like, so it's like, granted, it's a pay for feature in like dating apps like Tinder for you to use the passport feature, but TikTok would be like, yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah. They don't care. Um,
And
yeah,
that is all I have for Dongle news this week.
which means it's time for the tangibles.
The tangibles.
And we got some D&D talk tonight. We'll throw an article in the show notes from Dicebreaker. They have a great kind of breakdown of this, but it was recently announced that Wizards of the Coast is releasing a special edition of Curse of Strahd, called Curse of Strahd Revamped, which is a vampire-themed D&D setting. I think it's supposed to take your characters from level 1 to level 10, which is quite the campaign, like amount of playtime wise.
Depends
like
on the
that's
DM.
really depends on the DM. And so it's the first time I think that we've seen this type of like remix of this content, and it's coming out in a special like coffin display box. It comes with I had the list pulled up. It comes with a special Curse of Strahd DM screen and DM screen. There we go. An oversized Taroka deck.
Ooh.
A Taroka deck reading booklet. I guess it's like tarot.
Yeah.
I want to. Okay.
Kind of. I mean,
that,
it's a unique tool in D&D in general.
okay. You got your monster and NPC booklet, stat blocks, 2-side fold-out map, 4 handouts, and 12 postcards. Retailing for $99 US, but currently available on Amazon for $65. So,
dang, that's quite a discount.
Yeah, like that's very aggressive from.
Granted,
Amazon.
don't buy it on Amazon. You hit up that LGS.
And be like, yo,
and you let them know you're interested. See if there's anything they can do possibly to offer you some kind of discount supporting them. If not, you pay a little more.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Support that LGS.
One of the other things that's really cool about this is that Wizards has recently announced that they're trying to revamp some problematic elements of D&D, one of which is specifically in Curse of Strahd. And so this new printing is supposed to address that. The changes are already live on D&D Beyond if you own the book there.
Right.
It'll be cool to have a printed version with that.
And we should mention that the changes they are working toward is removing the evil aspect being race related. So like one thing you'll note in this, like in the description of this, is the description of the human variant for the Vistani people. So now they were originally described as dark-skinned, chaotic natures and fondness of lavish jewelry. I believe they were originally described as potentially chaotic evil. Originally, and they're trying to deter those types of association of race with good versus evil. In general, any race can be good or evil, and mostly they're probably going to focus more on the chaotic versus lawful natures more so in the coming, which also gives a lot more flexibility
right.
in terms of creating NPCs or unique NPCs or cool cultures and stuff for DMs and game builders. So cool, good on them. Excited to see where this goes for the most part, as long as they do it well and get good input.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess that wraps up our news segments, which means it is time for our top 3. We are going to be discussing our top 3 non-MCU superhero movies. And so, really excited about this one. And so, before we get going into ours, we of course have some Twitter responses. LJ Lowry over on, over on Twitter says Hellboy, the original, Logan, and Batman Returns. Shanine says Unbreakable, Split, and Glass, as the references entirely for that whole trilogy.
Yeah.
Which I still need to see. I haven't seen any of those. Oops.
Not gonna lie, I've only seen Unbreakable, I believe. No, I've watched Split. I have not seen Glass. I want to watch Glass because that's the most direct correlation to the original Unbreakable. Mm-hmm. I also didn't know Unbreakable was a superhero movie,
right?
until Split, and they talked about continuing the series.
And then on Instagram, Comics on the Cross says Into the Spider-Verse, Blade 1 and 2, and Shazam. And then over on our Discord, Isaac says Spider-Verse. Also love the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and to a lesser extent, Amazing Spider-Man. Then Logan, Days of Future Past, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which again it kind of falls in that same camp of is that a superhero movie? Oh yeah, it is.
Yep.
I don't think of it that way, but it's 100% a superhero movie. And then the Dark Knight trilogy. And so I guess that brings us to ours. Chris, why don't you start us off?
I'm going to start us off with Big Hero 6 because I love it. It's, first of all, it's just well animated. And it's such a beautiful story and a very wonderful, great job cast, good diverse cast. And Betamax is just da 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 da.
Yep.
Can't go wrong with good old Betamax. I just love Big Hero 6, and it's such a good, and it's also it's one of those traditional good access to tech equals create cool things and save the world.
And save the world. I think my I love Big Hero 6. It was on my short list. I think my only complaint is it feels like for as cool as the rest of the team is, I almost feel like that movie should be 30 minutes longer and give us a bit more of the team.
I agree. But I mean, we get more of the team. If granted, they did a good job on the series, the Disney series too. Granted, again, probably could still develop the other characters more. And I agree. But I think they do a good job of developing the other characters in the series as well.
And it's not like they did the old school superhero thing where you just try to cram development for 20 characters into one movie. So I'm glad they didn't go that way, but all the other characters, they have their moments. I just kind of wish they had a little bit more. But
I completely agree. Still a wonderful superhero movie.
Still great. It was one of Deanna's picks. It was also Big Hero 6. And
I mean, she is the Disney buff.
Yeah. My first choice is The Dark Knight. I think it stands as one of those superhero movies that even in the context of being its own movie is really good. So it has its great place in its trilogy, but then also kind of just it very much stands on its own. I think better than a lot of superhero series do, especially on the back of last week where we had talked about Comics on the Cross about Phase 2, and we got Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. I think it's really cool and it's always hard, I think, to have a good second movie, and so seeing the Dark Knight probably be the best in that trilogy is impressive.
I agree. Actually, like, yeah, I agree. The Dark Knight did something. I think the Dark Knight was really the start of a wonderful era for superhero movies, especially just in general. Being the sequel, showed us that you can have a really fun, good villain, and also and have a vulnerable hero and have it be good. And yeah, I mean, in general, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy is phenomenal. Did a great job with the first one, with the origin story, and then going straight into it. And I think that's really why the Dark Knight it was just set up so well in Christian Bale as Batman moving into the Dark Knight did a great job. And that was also on my list, but so instead I will pick a different one. We'll do Wonder Woman.
Taking that off my list.
Wonder Woman also did it is just, it, for one thing, adding that diversification and that in terms of what we see from superheroes and giving that representation for women, for a strong super heroine, was great. Also, not just her, but the Amazonians in general, and their portrayal was great. They incorporated this kind of love piece without distracting from the rest of the movie, by allowing that to actually progress. It wasn't like this main point that we're trying to push these two together, but that ultimately their time together allows them to there is a fondness there that you ultimately do feel in the loss later on in the movie. And they did a wonderful job.
Completely agree. That's why it was on my list as well. But instead, I'm going to pick the OG X-Men movie. And I'm going to, I guess, caveat this with I haven't seen this movie in a long time, so it could be awful, but I love the X-Men. It's probably my favorite, as a superhero IP prior to MCU, X-Men was my thing. And I was so excited to see X-Men on screen. I love their takes. And again, it's been a long time since I've seen this. I love their take on Iceman. Cyclops is what he is. But I loved that take. I wish they'd done better with Storm. But I really like the overall plot that goes on here. I like the teases we get for Wolverine's backstory, where we don't know too much yet, and they haven't tried to just explain everything to us like they eventually will, but that we're getting to kind of just see bits and pieces of what that is. And yeah, I think that's so cool. In chat, they point out not Apocalypse. And I want to point out that Hugh Jackman is Wolverine to the point that his existence echoes across all realities. But yeah, original X-Men, my number 2 in our order doesn't matter list.
I mean, ultimately, the success of the original X-Men is why we still make even very mediocre X-Men, or actually terrible X-Men movies, is because of the success of the original. And I agree. Yeah, that's probably one of the awesome ones, and maybe eventually will be part of the MCU.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Oh, and the Professor X and Magneto relationship in this one is so good. I can't believe I forgot to mention that earlier. I love their dynamic here, as they and it's that chess illustration that they have throughout the movie where they're just playing chess.
It probably helps that those two are actually really good friends.
Yeah, they're just
I'm pretty sure that's just their relationship.
Yeah, it's just their dynamic.
Their real life relationship is just them and X-Men without the animosity.
Yeah. So I want to shout this out. Like the budget for the original X-Men was $75 million, and it made almost $300 million in the box office.
And what
Like,
was
well,
the box? What was the budget for Dark Phoenix? And how much did it make?
let me find it. But like, I think, like, of course, like, inflation, all that stuff. But like, I just think that like that's like 300 million in the scheme of superhero movies today. Like that's nothing for Marvel. Like that's a bad MCU movie. But like for the time, like seeing that kind of that kind of crazy. Sorry, I just got to the Dark Phoenix numbers. Um, so Dark Phoenix was the budget of $200 million and pulled in $250 million in the box office.
I
So
mean,
it
at
made
least
money,
it made money.
but like that's not a good multiplier.
Like almost 3 times the budget
That's crazy.
of the original X-Men, and ends up being as mediocre as it is. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm just going to pull out of the barrel here to kind of see if we can prevent each other from stealing each other's. Okay, I'm just gonna give my third one to a kind of a shout out. It's really not good, but I'm very fond of this movie, and I don't know why. But Mystery Men.
I don't know if I've ever seen that. What's that about?
It is a 1999 comedy, kind of like it's kind of very sarcastic, kind of comedy.
I've seen this
It's like
cover.
the spoof. It's essentially mediocre superpowers, very mediocre superpowers. Like one of the main characters carries around a bowling ball with her like grandfather's skull in it. It's really a spoof off of. I think it's a spoof off of The Watchmen. I want to say almost. It kind of goes along the lines of it. Like probably fits in this genre of probably like taking it a little further. The Leaving Extraordinary Gentleman, and takes it a little farther into the extreme of like just kind of mediocrity of this group of people with some form of power. And I don't know. I just want to. I'm shouting it out here as one of my top 3, just because I think it's worth a watch. It definitely has a place within the genre, to like for a movie that just doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's the Men in Tights version of Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm. So I guess with that, we'll get the obvious one for the final one, and that's X-Men Origins Wolverine, the best non-MCU superhero movie of all time. Don't at me. Just kidding. That movie's awful. And the choice here is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep, that's on my list.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard to do this list and not have Into the Spider-Verse on there in some regard. Like the narrative that it tells, the animation, everything about it is so well done. There's a ton of really good like fan service and memes, and like they very much like have a love for the characters, but also understand the jokes about the characters.
Yes.
And like I think it walks that line perfectly between like making fun of them and then also treating them like one of the most iconic superheroes of all time.
I would agree. Like that's why it's on my list for so many reasons. Not only that, it's also a great standalone. Mm-hmm. In general, it's in terms of the story itself, it's entertaining and enough for new to Spider-Man people. But right. They throw so much additional in there for the hardcore fans, and telling a different aspect of the Spider-Man story, and obviously following Miles. Finally, like we're seeing a lot more of that representation of Miles coming out, and it's phenomenal. And also just all the Spider people together, Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, like and it's like a legitimately funny movie.
Yes,
like there were multiple times during the movie that I legitimately laughed out loud, like in the theater, and then like again when I watched it when it came to streaming services. Like it's so good.
Like,
And
yeah,
like
I was not surprised to see it on so many people's responses, just because it's obviously not part of the MCU yet. Um, but yes,
so
it's
far.
also a great soundtrack. Like
Mm-hmm.
good,
Yep.
good pacing. There's, I can't find any fault in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot speak enough praise for this movie. Like it is so good. Um, um, nah, man. Now I'm just gonna watch it again. Like I might just do this tomorrow.
Hey,
This
watch
movie's
party
just so
tomorrow,
good.
guys. Just-
Yeah. Oh man. So that brings us, I think, to the end of our show. If you're here in Twitch chat, we'll hang out and chat for a bit. But before we do that, we have a top 3 for next week. And Shanine will be on with us, and she gave us 2 ideas for what to do for next week's top 3. Chris, did you have a take? Or are you good with whatever of the 2?
I'm good with whatever of the 2, although I know which one we should be doing.
Okay. In that case, I hope that the one I'm picking is the one that you're saying that. We're going to do our top 3 non-musical or musical sequences in a non-musical.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
So the example that Shanine gave for this is, and this is 100% why I loved this idea, is the Nothing Suits You Like a Suit from How I Met Your Mother. So musical episode, musical song in a non-musical show or movie. I'm really excited about this. And mine might all be How I Met Your Mother things. Like, kind of like how last week all of Shanine's things were The Office. All of these for me might be How I Met Your Mother.
I'm trying to think of good examples of this. Like, right, like everything that comes to mind right now is coming from How I Met Your Mother, mostly because you just brought it up, but also just because they did a good job at those types of things. But I'm looking forward to hearing the responses from our listeners.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this. Like this is one of those two that like I have ones that come to mind, but I really need to think more. Because like I'm sure I'll think of more things and then I'll forget them, and then like in the haste to get the show ready, I'll try to remember them, but we'll see. I'm so excited for this topic. But with that, that wraps us up for the show this week. As always, listeners, you can find us on our social media, which is OneGeek411 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our PlayStation community. You can, of course, join our Discord server. Link will be in the show notes. If you ever have a topic idea, that you can hit us up at 1st geek411 at gmail.com. You can watch live at Twitch on our Twitch, and then find the videos over on our YouTube. And then, of course, you can rate and subscribe on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And check out our show notes over on our website, onegeek411.com. And while you're there, you can find our sister podcast, Faith, Trust, and Pixie Dust, where they discuss all things Disney. And with that, Chris, it's been a great week. We'll hang out and chat with our Twitch people, but
it sure has.
Until next time.
Well, I'm not so foreign.
Oh, man, it's even bolded in the show notes, so I won't forget. But you can find us on our personal social medias. Mine's Humar Wizzle.
And I'm not so foreign. Wash your hands.